Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and to the podcast. It's Dre Bre here, and we are back with another video, and we're in a different place because I am always liking to try things. So we've tried videos a lot of ways, and we decided, well, really I decided, but we both like the idea of just being on the couch and just chilling versus setting up any other thing with all the cameras and all that stuff like that. So for the foreseeable future, you're gonna get videos with us just like this, comfy at our crib, having conversation with you guys, having conversation with each other, and hopefully you enjoy that because it ain't changing anytime soon. But this video, we're really excited to talk about this because this was a major change in our relationship, like a major change, like one of the biggest honestly changes that we've had in a while.
Yeah.
And we're excited to talk about it, what it means, how we support each other, how we had that conversation. And it's really about Bre stepping away from what she's been doing for the last 7 years, and living truly a soft life.
Ooh, it's hard.
Living truly a soft life, but it's also a lesson of trust, a lesson of communication. So it's a lot of different things we're going to talk about. But before we get into that, we have a few updates for you guys regarding Relationship Restore. Bre, can you share some of those updates?
Oh, it's so many things. So first of all, For the Girls is back, y'all. We are filming our reunion episode this month, so it's coming. We're excited. We have some new things happening. We have our community, our online community, launching on Valentine's Day, which is super exciting because it is for singles and it is for couples. But we are going to be having weekly live and virtual events. Dre and Rhonda are taking their show live so that you guys can virtually live live on YouTube, so that you guys can engage with them in real time while they're filming the episodes, which is super exciting. Then we have obviously what we're talking about today, me working with the Relationship Restored full time, which means we are going to start doing events such as retreats, in person, different meetups in all of our different major cities where our members are. It's just a lot of really exciting things. I feel like there's one more thing that I'm forgetting.
No, you kind of looped it in. For the Girls, community, real love scenario, and then we're back doing our thing. So
yes.
Everything is good and we're really excited. So I want to hop right into it. Bre kind of mentioned it. She is now full time with Relationship Restored, and it's been a journey for us to get here. And it doesn't just start like a few months ago when we made the decision. It kind of started when we first met, like our whole trajectory of like working together, coming together, starting a business together, me leaving, then you doing it, and then all of that. So first I want to start with the beginning. Like a lot of people don't know how we came to work together in the first place or what we were doing before, because I feel like that part of the story leads into kind of the decision that was made now.
Yeah. So it's actually crazy because 7 years ago, literally like 7 years and a week ago, we made our announcement on YouTube that we were starting our branding and marketing business full time. Dre left his job and we put all of our time and energy into our business. And we ran that business together for 6 whole years before kind of parting ways. And if we didn't part ways in the way that we did, we wouldn't be where we are right now. So should I explain that first?
Yeah.
So the major reason why we parted ways is that Dre had gotten really great with podcasting, production, content creation, and people were taking notice of this, and he started kind of like dibbling in the podcast world, and he started working with Breakbeat Media, launched them pretty much from scratch.
Yeah, let me put a pin in that and briefly just talk about, so when Bre and I came together, I was 22 and you were 23, or
yeah,
you were 23, I was 24.
20.
We were in our young, early 20s, and we came together, and Bre had already been a very successful entrepreneur. She had her own studio in Cleveland, had Shameless Hills, which maybe she'll bring back for the community, maybe? Because people love them classes. She's going to have to stretch. She's going to have to stretch a little bit more. It's been a while since we brought them out.
Got it.
But she was doing a lot of amazing things in Cleveland. And for me, I went to school for business, and I was working in property management. It was kind of like managing a little small business within itself. But long story short is that when Bre came to DC, she had brought Shameless, but things weren't working out as planned, and we're looking for the next thing to do. And I was like, well, you have been great at doing websites. You built a brand for your business. Like, maybe we should start consulting and helping people to like build their brands. And this was in 2017, and started doing it. consultations was $25.
Literally. No, I think my consultations were free. I did free
Free consultations,
consultations,
but like
$50 services. So like the
services. Yeah.
consultations were $50.
So it was like, all right, start small, build up your clientele, all these different
Oh my
things.
gosh.
And it started to pick up. And then as it was picking up, we understood that Bre was great at the branding side and the people side, but the business side as well was more of my strong suit. And then the moment that we made as much as with the business as we made at my job.
Also, side note, can we just say this real quick? Because we realized this the other day. We were looking at like our oldest system that like we did invoicing for, and we realized we made over $500,000 in our, I think, second year of being in business. Not really know that.
No, it was close to it. Not quite that, but close to it.
It
well,
was.
if you add 1 and 2 together.
No, that's what I'm saying. Year 2, we had
Plus
made
one.
five.
Oh, yeah,
yes,
yeah.
by year 2, we made over $500,000, and that's from people who like we really had no experience other than like self-taught, figuring it out. It was really cool. So if you go from doing like free calls and $50 consultations to where we ended up like this, when I just ended, we had $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 packages that. When you think of like the growth, that's just so crazy. It's just so exciting.
It is really crazy. But we came together, we did that, and it grew from Bre was more the branding side, dealing with the clients, all that type of stuff. I helped with management, but I became more the production side and just back in of the business. And it had its ups and downs, but we did it full time for 6 years together. And it was an amazing experience just to know. I think at that age, we were like the only people we really knew who like legitimately were entrepreneurs full time, didn't have any other income but that. And it, for all those who don't know, we were started the business 3 months into dating.
Yep.
Really?
Moved in together and started a business, combined all of our finances. Literally, we got like married essentially.
Yeah, we were just waiting for marriage. That was the
Yep.
only thing that didn't come with it. And
It's so crazy.
I guess it paid off because we just knew. When you know, you know.
Yeah.
But it was definitely a risk. But I'll let you go ahead. You were right with the production side. I got really heavy in the podcast, and I produced the Don't Call Me White Girl show and helped Breakbeat Media launch as a consultant. Then we launched Real Love's Relationship Restored, which was also like podcasts, and I started consulting with other people's podcasts, which allowed me the opportunity to join Urban One as the head of their podcast division.
But the main difference between us with our first business is by like year 3, it was very clear that Dre wanted to go more corporate. I wanted to go more personal brand. So we were butting heads a lot on the decisions that we were making because he wanted to work with like the bigger clients, whereas I wanted to work with more of like smaller personal brand clients. And that's kind of where when he took interest in podcasting, I was like, ooh, this is my opportunity to take the business and do more what I want, which is serving women of color and not having to work with like the big corporations. And that was like when we had probably like a year of running the business like that. So Dre was in podcasting full time. I was working with my personal brand folks, and I did enjoy it a lot more than the corporate side. However, working with individuals is a whole other, challenge because people have personal things going on. They're more frugal with their money because it's their money. They worked hard for their money. And so marketing has to be different. Everything that I was doing had to be geared and marketed differently. And I was learning that because we were really blessed to, when we launched our business, not really have to market. All of our clientele came from word of mouth. And really, it just came from us showing up in our own personal brands. We didn't really have to promote what we were doing. So this was the first year, and this is like, after COVID had happened and after things with like the government are changing and people are starting to like think about where they're putting their dollars. And so marketing needed to be a real, I needed to get strategic with marketing. And what I realized in us doing that was that I did not like to post about my business. Anytime that I would post business, anything strategy related.
I don't think people liked it either.
No, people were like, shut up, talk about your relationship, keep showing us your life, show us the trip you went on. So it was this thing where I kept coming to Dre very frustrated and being like, anytime I post something or I'm trying to push or market the services, people are just like telling me to shut up, essentially. So I'm like, they don't want it. So I'm like, well, how can I continue to scale the business if people are literally telling me, like my analytics are telling me that they want my lifestyle, they want my relationship, they don't care about the business stuff. And so to make a long story short, what happened was I came to Dre with this plan. We were going to invest $12,000 into hiring this man who's going to build out this system for me, who is going to help me transition into high ticket sales. And honestly, Dre was super understandable and patient with me, because he didn't want me to do it, but he was like, if this is what you feel like you need to do, I guess that's what we're going to do. And, you know, I prayed on it, thought about it. And after some thought, I came back to him and I was like, you know what? Instead of spending $12,000, I was like, I'm going to learn this system myself. I'm going to DIY the whole thing. I'm going to find a COO. I'm going to find and hire my own closers. And I'm going to do everything that this person was going to do for me, but do it on my own so that it feels authentic and genuine to what I want my business to be. And this is when Dre said the amazing advice that he gave, where he was like, everything that you just explained, the $1 million goal and, you know, the high ticket offers and, you know, how many people you'd have to work with per month. And he was like, does that sound like a soft life to you? Because I had transitioned the business from all about your brand to Soft Life CEO in order to help my entrepreneurs live a soft life. And in me giving other people their soft life, I was essentially removing my soft life. Like I had a very free flowing schedule where I really only worked like 3 days a week. And with this new system and with the amount of team that I had grown and everything that I was doing, I was realizing like I was working way harder than I ever had worked before. And Dre and I knew at that point that we wanted to start trying for a family. And we've told y'all that we were like, we want to start trying for baby number one. And so he just said this simple thing to me. He said, if all of this was happening right now and you had 2 babies and like was pregnant, do you feel confident that you were like going to be able to deal with all of this? Like, how would you feel? Would you feel stressed out? And I was like, I never thought about it like that, you know?
I want to give my perspective on that point too,
Yeah.
because there's a little deeper feeling involved in that and the emotion that comes in it. So it's like, first, number one, I think you can support your partner in something, but also be skeptical at the same time. And I definitely was there.
I did not like that.
She did not like it at all, because I feel like it's my job also to challenge her ideas, especially because she knows my background. I think sometimes if you have like a spouse that's in a completely different field than you or doesn't understand, that's one thing. But it's like, I know what you're trying to do. I understand business. I understand this space because we were both in it together. I'm in it right now. So I would challenge her or be like, that don't make sense. Or, I don't see how that's going to work. And she would get upset at me. But I was truly skeptical because it just didn't feel like that was what she was supposed to be doing at that moment. But I also learned that sometimes people have their path and their journey to finding something out or to finding revelation, and you banging them on the head, telling them no, or you need to do this, or you need to look at it that way is just not going to work. They have to experience it for themselves. And all I would suggest doing is being supportive through that process. But she decided to go through the stuff and she went through the changes and put all the time and effort into it. And basically the main feeling that I had was, first I was looking at her and I was just like, every day you're like upset, you're like complaining, you're like angry, you're like frustrated because of everything that's going on. And then she would communicate to me like, my goal is to make, you know, $1 million a year, $1 million a year, $1 million year. And she's talking about what it will take to do that. And at this point, I had already communicated to her that I didn't feel like a priority. And I wanted to have a conversation at that moment because I'm like, once we start having babies and all that stuff, I know I'm going to go down the list. Just don't forget about me, please. Like, I'm still here. Still don't take me for granted. Can you show me love in the times that you can and all those things? But when she was explaining what it would take, I had to communicate to her. I was like, that don't sound like the lifestyle I want to live. Like, and she would tell me that she wants to make the $1 million in the business for us and for me and for her. But I'm like, that's not the life I want. If it is going to take all that to get the $1 million a year, like I'm good on that. Like we could have the $250,000 a year and live a lot better life versus the $1 million a year and you got 30 clients every month and it's this back and forth and that back and forth. I'm like, bro, you don't even like managing teams. And you talking about all these, it's like all these people that will be under you and doing all this stuff. So once we had the conversation, I think it took some time because there is a grieving process with that. But I think one thing I know about Bree is that she hears me when I talk. And even if she doesn't like it, she'll go back and really like think about it.
I do want to say this though, because I never actually got out of the training process. So what I was trying to explain to Dre was like, I know right now I'm not living softly, but it's because I have a brand new COO who a COO needs at least 6 months of like really learning the business, learning the team and like working under you. So it's like you're kind of doing their job and your own job. And at the same time, I have closers and I have, you know, content creators and all these people who like I'm overseeing. And I was like, let me just get out of the training period. And then once the COO is doing what I'm doing now, I will be able to live freer and it won't look as crazy. But here's when life kicked in. So, and this is also,
here's the kicker.
Shut up. Here's also when we kind of knew is like the first sign that we were supposed to do this at this exact moment is he had asked me, he was like, would you just like do Relationship Restored full time? Like if it was making enough money for you to leave your business and come over here, would you do that? And I looked at him and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, what type of question is that? That doesn't make any sense. Of course I would, but that's not our reality. Like if I could do that full time and make the same amount of money that I make with my business, duh, like, yes, I would do that, but that's not where we are. And for me, I didn't even think of the option of taking a financial like step back. I was like, money, money, money. I wanted to get the house. I wanted to do all things because of the baby. And so in that moment, I actually started to like think about what my life would look like if that happened. But I had told him, I was like, I couldn't do that to Natasha, who was my COO. I was like, she has worked so hard to be in this role and be in this position. I can't do that to her. And so to me, it wasn't even an option. And like how many days later, maybe 3 or 4 days later, I get a text from her and she was like, hey, can we talk? And something about the text message like told me, like I already knew what it was. Get on the phone with her. And she essentially gave me her notice. She had a major shift of change with her full-time job. And it was just something where it made no sense for her to like pass that situation up. So I totally understood and was very happy for her. But the moment that she told me she needed to leave, I immediately in my brain was like, I'm out of here. Like you were the only thing that was keeping me from doing this crazy thing that Dre had offered of like, you know, stop thinking about the money. Like we'll be good. Like, do you want to do this? And she was my reasoning for saying no. And so when I told him that information, he was like, okay, we need to sit down and we need to talk. And we went to dinner. And that was the first conversation that we had where we were even really considering like what he was saying. And what's funny is at that dinner, I had came up with like all these plan B options. I was like, well, I can help with the Relationship Restore, but I can still work with my clients, but I'm not going to go for the $1 million a year. I'm just only going to take clients as they come. I'm not going to market. I'm not going to try to grow it, but we're not going to give up all that money. You know, like I can still do both. And he was just looking at me like, goodness, you're not getting it. Like, I don't think that's what you're supposed to be doing. I think you're supposed to be being obedient and really allowing me to lead in this way. And like, we work together and like do this. I think this is what God wants for us. And I was like, I'll think on it. I'll pray on it. We go to sleep. The next day we wake up and he had a devotion. Yeah, his daily devotional. And he was like, I think this is for you. And he sent it to me. And I was like, this is crazy. This is another sign. So a long story short, the devotional was about Elisha following Elijah by burning his plows, killing his cows, and literally like giving up his farm to go and follow Elijah's footsteps because that's what God had called him to do. He called him to be obedient to Elijah and Elijah's calling. And at the end of everything, Elijah and Elisha are like beyond blessed because they followed God's orders and obeyed, and ultimately ended up being in a position way better than Elisha could have ever imagined as a farmer. Like, just life flipped upside down, just so blessed. And at the end, the prayer was like, release your plan B. And like, when you have God's plan, that's the only plan that you need, essentially. So I was like, dang, like, okay, if I really, really gave this thing up, what would that mean for me, right? Because I was thinking about my identity. I was like, for the last 7 years, I have built my brand as a brand strategist, as a brand coach, as a social media strategist, as somebody who speaks on panels. And like, even now to this day, like yesterday, I got asked to speak at a conference, and I was like, I gladly turned that thing down, but I wasn't in that space in the moment of me picturing leaving this business aside, because I was like, that's who I am. And it took a few weeks of me and Dre having conversations, of me, excuse me, of me picturing my life, where like, what would it look like to just show up as me and just talk about the things that make me happy on a daily basis, my relationships, my marriage, my lifestyle, travel, friendships, all of those things. And what's crazy is, I started to post and like removed the business stuff and just started showing up in the relationship space. And this is the first time in over a year that I have gotten growth on my social media. I went from 103,000 to about to hit 108,000 followers in like a week, which is crazy because I was stagnant for like 2 years at 100,000 followers. So yeah.
Let me give the other side of it as well, like from my purview and perspective, because everything that Bree said is correct. But I want to go back first because it now has made it 7 years. And as we know, or if you don't know, 7 is what?
Oh, in the Bible, 7 is the number that means completion.
Yeah. So it's like, it's so funny that I told Bree this the other day. I guess I used the wrong word. I said reset, but it feels like we almost have a redo, that we can kind of take everything we learned when we launched our first business and kind of do it again. And it all is kind of happening in the same way, which is very interesting. So number one is, Bree had talked about this, me telling her or sending her the devotional, right? But when we launched our first business, before we did it, I was talking to Bree, and Bree was, like I said, you know, she did an amazing thing with Shameless, but when she came to DC, it was, you know, trying to figure it out. It was hard. And I was telling her, you need to get a job. You need to get a job. You need to get a job. You need to work. You need to work. And I was banging her, like banging it or shoving it down her throat, like, you need to work. I don't care about this entrepreneur stuff. You got to provide for yourself. You're an adult. And then one day I was just in the shower, and I feel like God spoke to me. He was like, she don't need to work. And I was like, say that again one more time. It was like, she don't need to work. So then I came out the shower and I told her, I was like, all right, we need to figure out something else, but a job isn't the answer. And she kind of looked at me like, what? Like, this is the same man who the whole time setting up interviews for me, trying to find jobs for me, and then you just all of a sudden are like, nah, you good? So it comes full circle in this moment to where I'm just like, nah, like, you good. And then also getting a sign to send to her to say, like, you don't gotta work. But briefly, as we lead into like now us working together with Relationship Restored, first giving some context. Relationship Restored was an idea that I had maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, probably 5 years ago. It was definitely pre-COVID, the idea that I had, and it was to basically have this relationship community with almost being like a relationship church, to where people can come fellowship, they can enjoy themselves with one another, they can have sessions to learn, they can connect, maybe meet the love of their life, maybe meet their best friend. But it also helps in not only intimate relationships, it's friendships, family relationships, your spiritual relationship, and most importantly, your relationship with yourself. So I had this vision like way so long ago, like so long ago. And I will always talk to Bree about it, but didn't know how it will ultimately come about. And then once I got heavy into the podcasting space and got really good at it and learned that was my niche and that I really understood it and know how to succeed in that space, that's what prompted me to launch it first with podcasts and as a podcast network. And that's where you have the show with Bree and I called Worth the Wait. You have For the Girls, and then me and Rhonda had Real Love Scenario, because Rhonda was an old co-worker. We used to talk about relationships all the time. So we thought that would be a good fit. And then when we launched, Bre was basically in it because we took our Worth the Wait channel, if you followed us there before, and turned it into Relationship Restored. And Bre was kind of in it, but she was also having the other stuff that was occupying her time too. So it made it tough to really do both, even for us to have our own show consistently or for her to help with the stuff behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And to make a long story short is that as we get to this moment that Bre is talking about, I'm ready to like revamp it. I'm learning a lot. I took the job at Urban One. I'm learning how the sausage is made at a larger level. So just understanding where the direction needs to go. And I think that, all right, we established a podcast. Now it's time to launch the community. So as I was typing out the business plan, I had everything for content. Are we going to do this content? Because that's like my background. Like, ooh, we're going to shoot this. We're going to do that. We're going to have this series. And then like I had the vision and the revenue goals, outlined everything. But then when I got to community, I knew the vision overall for what I wanted to be, but the intricacies of it, I was like, I need Bre. That's like what popped in my head. Like, I need her for this. Like, and what's wild is everything. I always say preparation is still progress to people. So even if you are preparing for something, sometimes it doesn't feel like you're progressing. But if you are preparing, then you are still progressing because you're going to be able to use what you learn and what you gain somewhere in your life that's going to propel you forward. So I say that because Bre was doing a Soft Life CEO community. And she had learned this system, the circle system, and built the community and was running it for almost like half a year, right?
It was like, no, a year. It was a full year.
Yeah, a full year of doing it. And who would think that that knowledge, that understanding, that experience would then translate right into the community for Relationship Restore. And she was able to know what to do immediately once I laid out, all right, this is the vision. And she was like, oh, you got to do this. She like built it in a day or something like that. And I was like,
it was literally in like an hour. It's like, okay, it's done.
And that's the thing with the balance is like, I've always been big picture thinker, vision. I can see how everything connects. I feel like my my passion, but also one of my greatest skill sets is problem solving. But Bre is I don't want to say executioner. You're an executor, not an executioner.
Yeah.
No, well, she's an executor. Like Bre, if she knows what needs to, she can get it done. It could take me 3 days. She could do it in an hour. Like that's how well she is, how well she does that. So for us to come together, it's that perfect balance of like big vision, execution. And I knew in order for this vision to come to life, because it's such a big vision that I feel like it's God ordained and it's going to impact and help so many people, that we have to work on it together and utilize our strengths together. And I think all of the time with us working together, understanding our own nuances, how to communicate, all those different things helped us and led us and build us up to this point to where we can make this truly successful.
Well, because the other thing too is before we were both running a business together, but we had two totally different visions for that business. So that caused the headbutting. Whereas now we're going back into business together, but the vision is the same. So now we're building the same vision and we're just using our own strengths and essentially meeting the other person's weaknesses. So that way it's like we're doing the things that we enjoy doing the most, that we're the best at doing, and removing the things that we don't enjoy. We have a team in place for, assisting and all of those things. So it's really awesome because we're both being able to work in our superpower towards the same vision and the same goal. So I think that was the biggest difference from All About It. All About It was a business that we ran together with two different visions, ultimate visions. So we were kind of driving in this direction, whereas now we're going forward in the same one.
Yeah, and I think sometimes too, we think we know ourselves, but it's kind of like a quote that my coach said one time. It's like, we're all like tea bags. You don't know what's in us until we're placed in hot water. Like you hypothetically and theoretically think you would do certain things in certain situations, but until you're in it, you don't truly know. So it's like, I think part of launching our first business was even learning ourselves, like of what we were good at, what we weren't good at, how we could work. Like before, we started the business, I was technically in sales. So I was like, oh, I can sell and do this. And I'm a pretty good salesman, but Bre, for what we were doing, was a way better salesman. And I don't think she actually had ever been in a sales position, but we learned that through doing it. So if we were laying it all hypothetically, it would be like, oh, Jerry would do this because he's done it before, and Bree would do this, but actually doing it, our mindset changed when it came to it, and we had to learn each other's strengths first, and then second, unmarry ourselves from what we thought it was going to be or what it should be. So it was just a lot of learning lessons. Now going into it, we truly understand like what our roles are, what our strengths are, how to communicate things, what the expectations should be. And it's just an exciting experience, like doing something with your partner. I know there are a lot of people who go into things and they like to keep everything separate, and from money to finances to business. And that's for good reason, because it is tough and it's a challenge to try to merge all those things together. But when you're aligned, it's really cool to be working on the same thing together. And for us to go after this dream and this purpose that I feel like God has put in us together. It's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. And we would love to know like what questions you all have, because we've been working together obviously for a very long time, but now in like a new and different capacity. And if you're out there and you're in a relationship and maybe you're thinking of working together, or if you are working together and you're having issues, let us know what topics or questions you guys have, because we would love to create more videos on that for you all.
And join the community too.
Yeah.
But one question for you that I wanted you to talk about, like, what was your true mindset? And I want to give my mindset too, into actually letting go of your financial contribution, I guess, solely to the household, in what you were doing. Because we own all of our businesses together. I wouldn't be at Urban One without Bree and all the help that she's given me. Like, so we all consider, or Bree and I consider, everything we got together as being a group effort for the most part. But your individual contribution from a financial standpoint, like, what was your mindset like letting that go? Was it fearful? Was it scared? Did you think I would treat you different or demand something of you? Like, what was your process with that?
Yeah, I'm still processing, because one of the other things that happened that we didn't mention is, I think the day after we made the decision to go all in, we woke up and we had gotten like a $5,000, which ended up being like $6,500 brand deal with like a
Don't say who with. I think it's like contract things, but we
Oh.
got a brand deal. Yeah.
Yeah, like a brand deal together from like a relationship thing. Like they reached out to Dre, was like, hey, we want to do this with you and your wife. And it was kind of like a reminder that we were like, oh wait, we have this whole other source of income that we don't really ever count on because it's so random, which is like Dre gets booked for different modeling gigs, and then we both get influencer brand collabs and deals. And they're a substantial amount. It's not, small deals, but we never were aggressively going to go after that as a source of income. Once we decided we were going all in on Relationship Restored and we're also trying for baby, I was like, this is the perfect opportunity to take the influencer brand deals seriously and sign with a legitimate agent and really make sure that I'm creating quality content that aligns with brands, because that is another stream of income. But the fact that that was my initial thought let me know that I was super fearful of letting go of my income. Because why was that my first thought? Like, why was I, even though we said, give this up, go all in on this plan, my first instinct was, okay, but money. And the money thing has nothing to do with me feeling like you would treat me differently, because we've done this before, and it's been a thing where neither of us have ever put each other in a space of feeling differently because you're making more than or less than or whatever. But it more so for me was a lifestyle thing. Like, me and Dre look at our budget every single month. We know exactly how much money we need to live the life that we want. And what I didn't want is for me to regret making the decision because our lifestyle changed. So what I had to ask myself was, if it takes a year of sacrifice, would I still be happy without all of those things? And when I asked myself that, the answer was yes, of course, because we don't need a lot to be happy. It's bare necessities, right? Like, as long as we're eating and we're happy and healthy, like, we don't need all of the things that money can buy, but travel is something that we've had the luxury of like doing very frequently. And again, when I was in that mindset of thinking like, okay, well, what would it look like if we couldn't take the trips or do the things? I immediately went to, well, I've gotten brand collabs where people will let me come and stay at their places for free, so I could still do collaborations. And it all just kept going back to me thinking of other ways to supplement my income. And that allowed me to know that I was really, really fearful of it. And now that we've made the decision, because we made the decision in December, like at the top of December, and I gave 30 days notice to all of my clients, to my community, to my social media. I let everybody know that at the end of December, there will be no more Soft Life CEO and all about it, or all about your brand. And after I did that, me and Dre were cracking up. The outpour of people that reached out was like, oh my God, wait, before you end, I just need a website. Or before you go, you did a logo for me back in like 2018. Can I get the renderings for this? Can I get that? And I was just like overwhelmed with emails and text messages and DMs of people that wanted services or that were following up from a service that ended and closed, forever ago. So the month of December, I really have been in a space of like, I'm trying to process losing my business, but at the same time, the business isn't gone because I'm still working with all these clients and I'm getting people closed out. And so it was kind of stressful because I'm trying to step into this role for Relationship Restored and show up for him and the Relationship Restored team, but I'm still actively working with clients. So even now, second week of January, I still have 2 clients that before I can, fully be done, I have to close them out. And I think that the processing of really letting go of the income of the business, of that identity, is going to happen after I close out those 2 clients, because it's kind of like you can't grieve something until it's actually time to grieve. I'm still working with people and I'm still in the mix. I still have the emails and the website is live. I think once all of that goes down, then I'll be able to really process. And I think that for me, I wouldn't have made the decision if I didn't know wholeheartedly that we would be okay financially and that you wouldn't treat me different. So that's kind of where I am. It's like, I trust you and our relationship for it not to be an issue. But at the end of the day, I'm human and I'm still processing the feeling of letting go of that income, and trying to feel safe in that, especially because we've actually been making investments and buying a lot of things lately. And I haven't felt fearful like, I shouldn't get this. I think we've done a good job of putting ourselves in like a financial space to be comfortable and to know like we don't need to make 20,000 a month immediately. We don't need to supplement that income and feel the backlash of like letting it go, because we've done such a good job with like saving and things like that. So I feel good in that. But again, it's still a process. And I would love to do a follow-up video on that after I process, but I'm still trying to figure it out. Still figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think you made some good points, and it always started, and Bree knows, for me, it's always like the money thing. Like, I am frugal when it comes to stuff, but I'm very money conscious about like the decisions that we're making, how we're setting up our future. And for me, it was like, first, her happiness. Well, let me start with this. For me, I was like, as long as it's me and Bree, like whatever the circumstances is, even if things got real bad and we had to move to Florida with her mom, or I had to move into my parents, like it wouldn't be ideal for us. But as long as it's me and her, like I'll be fine. So with that being my baseline and knowing that if I'm with my person, I could be with my person anywhere and we'll be good, then that let me know, okay, cool. The love is there. The love is good. I got my person with me. Then after that, it was like really evaluating financially, where are we? We were in a pretty good position and we did a great job over the past couple of years of just simplifying our life. Even like in our home, whether that's throwing clothes away, just like only having the essentials around, because we have a lot of junk. Like people just in general, we have a lot of junk. And I watched a video where it was talking about different things like, all right, takes a bunch of stuff and lock it away for 6 months and see if you ever go to use it. And if you never go to use it, it probably doesn't need to be in your house at all because you don't use it anyways. So it was just simple things like that, not only financially, but in our lives. And we were just like, and I just looked at that and was like, we don't need a ton to be happy. We just need each other. We need to be comfortable, especially to be able to eat how we like to eat, because we both like to
Huh.
eat.
That's like the most
That's like
important.
the most important thing for us is like, all right, we like to eat
Good
nice,
food.
good food. But outside of that, it's like we don't need a ton. And luckily, or we're blessed to have built a brand and a following to where that allows for a lot of opportunities for us too to travel and do some really cool things. So for me, I looked at her happiness and her state of being, and I was just like, where you are right now with this thing is just not where I would want you to be. Just how you're walking around the house, the huffing and puffing. And then, especially with us planning to have a kid, like I want you to have that flexibility to be a mom and be around. And not only that, is your skill set is like so amazing that it actually brings value to what we're doing with Relationship Restored. It would be different if you like were somebody who wasn't in that field at all, or like, but the fact that your skill set is like basically hiring like a high six-figure employee to come work for the company essentially,
For
like
free.
for free, essentially helps.
I want to talk about that because I do think that, and this might be helpful for those of you out there who maybe you're in like a career space where maybe you're thinking of shifting or going to a different company or whatever. But for me, when I really had to ask myself, I was like, what am I losing and what am I gaining by making this decision? And the thing I was most fearful of wasn't even financial, it was more purpose driven. And I was like, why would God have me go through all of the experiences I've gone through to become such an expert? And like, I use that word strongly because like I am really, really good at what I do. And I haven't been able, or I haven't had a client who I haven't been able to like, take from point A to point B every single time, major transition and transformation. And I do it so effortlessly that I was like, why would I give that up? Like, if this is a skill set, if this is a passion and a purpose that I have, why would I give that up? Like, that was what I felt guilty of. I was like, how many people will I not help by making this transition? And so when I looked at it like that, and then to Dre's point, I was like, wait, I would literally be doing the same thing that I'm doing. I would just be doing it for our internal business, our internal talent and team and brand and all of those things. But what that business is going to touch, the amount of people that it's going to impact without me having to do these services one-on-one, there's going to be a greater impact. And when I looked at that as saying, like, I'm taking my purpose, I'm taking my passion and my skills and my talents to grow this thing that is going to impact thousands of hopefully millions of people in their relationships and in their everyday lives, like that's such a bigger impact that I could have made in just branding and social media with helping people grow their businesses. And so when I was able to reassign my purpose, then I was like, okay, now I feel at peace. And I had made a post on social media talking about how the idea of leaving my business to do Relationship Restore full time seemed crazy. But since I made the decision, I had been at such peace with it. And that was the conversation, the internal conversation that I had to have with myself to get to that point. Second thing I want to talk about, because Dre mentioned what we need to be happy, is I think that I allowed myself to feel peer pressure by other friends, family, people on social media, thinking that in order for me to be successful, in order for me to be happy, in order for me to do things the right way, that we had to have this house. And so the money, what had really nothing to do with happiness, it more so, again, goes back to lifestyle. I was like, I want the house that I want. The house that me and Dre want is really expensive. It's about 4 to 5 mil. Okay. So we were like, you know how much money you need to put down on the type of house that we want. And so I was trying to do everything in my power to make the money versus sitting back and asking myself what the house even meant, or what will it feel like to have that house? And so when I really started to picture that, I started to think of all my friends who have the big houses who are like, oh my gosh, it sucks for maintenance. Like trying to keep that big old house clean. Everybody and their mama want to come and stay with you all the time. And it's like added pressure. Then you have all the random things that break or things that happen. Then you have just the random upkeep that you don't necessarily have when you have like a luxury apartment. Like if something a pipe bursts, or you got to mow the lawn, or, you have a pool that you have to maintain and pay for yourself. And when I really thought about what I enjoy on a day-to-day basis, and when I looked at a house versus an apartment, the apartment had everything that I wanted. And I was like, the only thing that the house has is more space, but it's just me and Dre. And then I was like, even thinking of baby, we have an extra bedroom in our apartment that could be a nursery. It's just that I wanted the nursery and the office and the big closet and the content space and all of the things, but that's not what's really needed. And so when I took a step back and looked at what I wanted and what truly makes me happy, I and Dre both felt that where we live right now is the best place we could possibly be. All of the things that are important to us, like our gym, like Whole Foods, like the movies, like the restaurants, we can just walk to. And when I pictured myself as a new mom, I think for my wellness, if I had a big brand new house, I would be overwhelmed with projects. I would constantly be obsessed, because you know how I get when it's like things aren't done. And I think I would be isolated. I think I would feel kind of alone, because I would have to put my child in a car and drive somewhere just to get anywhere. Whereas here, you just go right downstairs. There's a whole mommy community here. Like, it is just, everything's walkable and it's comfortable. Like, this is home to us. And so when I really thought about it, I was like, I don't want that house right now. I just felt like I needed it right now to feel how I thought I should feel before having a baby. And when I reevaluated all of those things, I realized that we already had exactly what we need. And that even gave me more comfort with trying for baby number one, because I no longer felt like I needed to prepare, which was nice, because anyone who knows me knows I'm a planner and I like to prepare. So when I came to peace with just being like, we have everything that we need, it made my decision that much clearer and that much easier.
Yeah, and that's really the reason why I felt comfortable with the decision. Is like I wanted us to live a lifestyle that we were just happy with, and
Yeah.
I feel like she deserves it too. Like, she puts in a lot of hard work. Bree is very dedicated in what she does, and as I said before, when we both met, we didn't have nothing to our names. Like, and where we are in our lives right now is a testament to both of our inputs and investment into one another. So again, me getting this position as an executive at Urban One is not just a Dre thing, it's a us thing, because I wouldn't be here without her. So it's like you reap the benefits of everything that I get because it's part of what you contributed to me in our lives. And I always say this to people, is that if you want to get the most out of partnership, you have to fully invest into partnership, because some people don't get the most out of partnership because they don't put 100% into partnership. If you lean 100% into it, that's when you'll get the most out of it. So now we're at a point in our lives, which I had set out, like I said, I'm a very long-term person, and I had already said this when I was like 19 or 20. I was like, by 30, I'm gonna be straight. And what I meant by straight is not like retired or anything, but I'm gonna have like my career established. I'm gonna have like my love life and wife established, and I know exactly what I'm gonna do, and everything's gonna be smooth. So right now we're at a point to where we know exactly what we're going. We know exactly what we want to do with the rest of our lives and how we want to impact the world. So now it's just about building that up in order to succeed in that space. And we're really excited for it. And I'm excited for this journey. I'm excited for her to be able to, go into being a mom and doing things like that and not feeling the pressure, because it's hard to fathom or really talk about it on this video about what it feels like to be in a home with somebody who's like really unhappy at moments, or like really struggling with something, or really frustrated with something. It disrupts the house and it shakes the house, and it's just not a good feeling. So now being in a completely different space, a lighter mood, the conversation is different. Like, even our work conversations are way different than what they were years ago. It's like just true, genuine excitement about what we're doing. And really, it's just a story about, as we end this, about faith, in that, whatever God has put in my mind as a vision and in our hearts to do together, that it's all going to work out. That's why we're not stressing about money. I think I can't quote verses, right now, but it's I think it's in the New Testament, maybe Matthew or something like that. But essentially, it says like, look at the flowers and all their beauty, and how God, provides beauty for them to where they're here today and gone tomorrow. Like if He does that for something that's so minuscule and doesn't matter, why wouldn't He do that for you? So essentially, it's that story of faith. So even when Bree was like, we're investing in things and not worried about money, it's like, hey, if we truly believe that this thing is going to be our future, we're not going to look back and say $200 that we spent that one day did it. That was the thing that made us, live in this tent or something like that. It's like, if we truly believe, then we're going to be smart about the things that we're getting, but we're going to invest, not worried about what could happen. So definitely a story of faith. It's a story of trust, us trusting one another, in our abilities and our commitment to the goal, but also us trusting that we won't treat the other person differently, make them feel bad for whatever change in role or contribution to the household it may be, because that's so important. It's like if you want somebody to do something and you say you support them, the backhanded compliments, the backhanded comments, that's never going to work, and it's just going to create resentment and more problems. So we trusted each other, not to do that. And it was just communication, like communicating our vision, our desires to one another, and giving each other the space to really digest what we heard and be able to come back to each other and communicate again. Because that's the thing I don't think people really talk about in communication, is the digestion of like what was initially said. It's like, it's not just one conversation. That conversation could go for months, or even a year or so, or so, to just digest and really get to the conclusion of whatever's being talked about. So we're super excited. We would love for you to support us in what we're doing with Relationship Restored. And it's really just by subscribing, watching these videos, watching the shows, and joining our community. The community is going to be so much fun. It's going to be so dope. I can't wait to launch it. It's like one of the major parts of the vision of Relationship Restored. So if you are single, you're a couple, you live in Alaska, South Africa, I don't care, DC, please join. There'll be a space and time for each and every one of you. So we're really excited. I know Bree is super excited.
And we actually have to go because we have a Relationship Restored meeting.
We do. Well, we'll talk to you guys later. Make sure you keep tuning in, and peace.